Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you once again for joining us here on Gulfstream today. I'm Gabby GAUDET, joined by Andy Serling to tackle this lovely Wednesday afternoon card, and it's beautiful weather to enjoy and a lot of races today and throughout this coming weekend as well. Some big races on Saturday.
Absolutely. The big Don car will be drawn today. Looking forward to seeing who's running that day. 2 Grade 1s in that program. We've got 11 today, and I know that we have a lot of difference of opinion, so we've got a lot to talk about.
It's always fun
Absolutely.
when we can approach the card with different opinions.
It means there's possibly one of us will have a smart opinion somewhere along the way.
Hopefully one of us is right. We'll take a look at some of our featured wagers and our carryovers today as well. And race 1 does kick off the rolling super high 5. We have a carryover just over $3,000 in that feature wager. This also does kick off the 50-cent late pick 5 or early pick 5. Sorry. You're moving on to race 6. It does kick off the 20-cent rainbow pick 6 carryover, just shy of $360,000 in that. And we look into race 7, kicks off the 50-cent late pick 5. Interesting sequences, interesting races as well today. And you start us off with hopefully a very nice ticket.
We'll see. It's not an easy sequence. These are open races. The first race, I'm using a couple of price horses along with a couple of horses that will be favored, the 1 and 3. Going 2 deep in the next 2, and then I'm going 3 deep in the last race. We'll see, and we'll talk through these sequences. And once again, these tickets are, they're a place to start. I mean, plays A, B's, and C's. I play multiple tickets when I get involved here, and you spread around. And just those would be close to most of my A's. Maybe the first race, they'd be A's and B's. This first race, the 1 and 3 are the horses to beat. I don't think either one of us will disagree with that. They're drop downs. There's not a lot of form to go on in this race, or good form. Both of us are going to try to beat them with different ideas.
I agree. Rail setting is at 115 feet for this first race on the turf. Just take note of that. And we're both trying to beat the one True Diplomacy in here, who figures to be the favorite. He's dropping from Maiden Special Weight Company. He's exiting a race last time out behind Old Sport. He's just kind of been outclassed as of late. It's not like he had real shining moments in the past against Maiden Special Weight Company. So I think that although this is a considerable drop, I don't know. I can't land on a horse like this.
Yeah, I mean, turf racing is a much different animal than dirt racing. In turf racing, there's a smush factor where the fields are much more bunched towards the wire. So a horse that's 7th or 6th, beaten 4 lengths in a race, it's kind of like a horse in a dirt race that was 7th or 8th, beaten 12 lengths sometimes. And it makes these horses look better dropping. It's not like he's made any kind of move. And the same for the 3 Congrats You in any of his races. The question is what to recommend about your pick or my pick.
The reason why I'm landing on the 4, Chiagos, is because I do think that he's going to be the speed. Now, last time out over the good going against similar company, he was the speed, and he was beaten by Mind Magic by over 7 lengths. Mind Magic was that winner by 7 lengths. So obviously he was much the best, but it was kind of a blanket finish for the remaining horses in that race. And I thought, all considering, he hung on relatively well over that good course. Now, when he did go 2 turns, a mile and a 16th this distance, a couple starts back, he just went too fast. You can't, with these types of horses, you can't go that fast and sustain the speed. So I'm just hoping that we can slow it down a little bit today.
Good luck. He's a price, and he'll be in front in a pretty weak field. I didn't like his last race, but I understand. Listen, I've taken Mr. Song, who I tried last time, to no avail, and it's a funny race he comes out of last time. I remember being surprised early he was going towards the lead because there were about 4 or 5 speeds signed on in there. For whatever reason, none of them made any attempt whatsoever for the lead. And a horse in there, Panama Will, who I think was a legitimate 10-to-1 morning line, it looked like a good 8 10-to-1 shot. It didn't feel like a bad morning line. Went off 5-2. Went to the front in a dawdling pace in a race loaded with speed. So Mr. Song found himself near the lead because nobody went. That's not his preferred running style. You've got more speed with Chiagos. Not that it figures to be a blazing pace in here. But you know what? I took a shot with him last time. He was off a 4-month layoff. He got into a situation that he couldn't handle. This is an easier field. If I bet him last time, I feel like I want to give him one more chance.
You have to stick with him once again today, especially if you think that the favorite's going to be vulnerable. Why not stick with a horse you like last time out with excuses? And that's kind of the same approach I'm taking on the race. We just differ in opinion in terms of our top selections. We'll go to race 2 on the card, 6,250 non-winners of 2 lifetime conditions, 6 furlongs on the main track. And we'll take a look and we'll go back to a race that you feel this Cornelius comes out of, and Cherie's Win. Cherie's Win 8-5 on the morning line looks to be the horse to beat here.
I thought you feel this Cornelius got a very poor ride in this race. He's the number 2 horse. Cherie's Win is the 7 horse. Now, what happens is you feel this Cornelius gets left in here. Okay, so you broke a little slow. I don't know what the impetus was in a race to gun this horse up between horses. I mean, you can see there's 4 horses going. It's not like one horse is sort of loafing on the lead, Gabby, and sent up in there. I don't know that he ran well enough. I don't know if I like him enough, but he can win this race. I didn't use him in the pick 5, but he would certainly be a B or C for me in a multiple ticket play.
This is going to be my top selection primarily because of this replay alone. You know, when a horse doesn't break well, you never really want to take them out of their comfort zone, and I thought that that's kind of what the case was. In this case, I wish that she should have just relaxed behind that blanket of horses in front of her. Instead, she split horses. She was used early, and I thought that expended so much energy that she just kind of swapped leads, and she wasn't. She didn't have a lot of energy late.
And Cherie's Win, who's moving, she's picking up the pieces. Now, she still finished 7 lengths ahead of you, feel as Cornelius.
Yes.
So the question is, was it really 7 lengths worth of bad judgment? I don't know. But the problem with Cherie's Win is she's been in 2 straight spots where she could have won. I know she was 7-1, 2 back. I liked her that day. She had no excuse not to win. And it just feels like she's getting second kind of by default in these races. And maybe she'll win today by default. But each one of us wanted to find an alternative. And I agree with it. You feel as Cornelius. Their horse will make up a lot of that gap. I'm just not sure all of it.
We'll see. You land on the 4, Lillian's Rose, to try to beat the favorite Cherie's Win.
You know, this horse, I'm not standing on super solid ground, but I didn't want to take either of those horses. And you look through this race, and I couldn't find anything to recommend about one horse after another in this race. And it's like either you take the horse you took trying to beat the 3, or you default to the 3, which I think is a mistake at a short price. Maybe she wins by attrition. But with Lillian's Rose, she's turning back off her 1 dirt effort where she actually ran well enough that she could be competitive in this race. Cherie's Win. I like turnbacks. I'm going to take a small shot.
I had her 4th. I don't think she's impossible. She's competitive by the virtue of the fact that she's only had 1 main track try, so that might even put her atop. And it was against tougher company, too. I agree with you. I like the cutback with her because she should be able to make that 1-run move at the top of the stretch. So yeah, I think that horse definitely figures, and I agree with you. The favorite in there could be very much vulnerable.
And I thought about making my pick 5 $72 and including You Feel This Cornelius, or I thought about using the 3 of them and only 3 in the first race. But I wanted to throw the 2 in. You have to make these decisions. But I could easily include this horse as well and make the play $72. And if you're playing the pick 5 and you're looking at my play and you want to include another horse, I'd include your horse. I think that horse is dangerous.
And that's the thing. I think that's kind of the theme of this entire card is that you have to have an opinion and then just stick to it, or else you're going to be using several different horses and just wasting money in some of these multi-race gimmicks.
And sometimes you have to live with your opinions, and if there are horses that are decent prices, you have to hope, the assumption is that your handicapping is good enough that you'll win. You're assuming these horses are overlays, and they'll win occasionally, and you'll make money with them. Not today, but tomorrow.
Okay, we'll move on to the 3rd race, 12,500 non-winners, a 2 lifetime event, 1 turn mile on the main track. And we have the 5 Mongolian Chrome. And I know you liked this horse a little bit last time out, and we do have a replay. So let's throw to that, and you can walk us through that replay, Andy.
One of the reasons that I liked Mongolian Chrome last time, who's the 8 horse in this race, was there seemed to be some speed in here, and I expected this horse would be able to take advantage of that. Instead, you have a rider, you can see with the red hat, who I don't know if he dropped a quarter on the turn. He was trying to be the first guy there to pick it up, but he's driving this horse from the start. I don't get it. It's one thing to try to establish position. It's another thing to be in a drive and be sending the entire way. You can't win races unless you're significantly the best if you never save anything for the end. So what happens with this horse is he's in a constant position of motion. He's making a premature wide move. He runs a winning race, but loses because the rider was in a panic. And this is a rider who's over-aggressive time after time, and I don't really understand it. I think this horse can win, but it has the same rider, and I don't have any confidence that it'll get a similar type trip in here. If anything, I think this horse might be near the pace. And if that's the case, I'm skeptical.
I think that it will, especially considering the last ride, too. The horse shows speed going longer distances in the past, so now with the added distance to the mile, I would definitely imagine that he's going to be on or near the lead.
And what's interesting is I liked the horse last time on the turn back. And you would think turning back, the horse wouldn't be that close, yet it was in a constant rush. And now you're going longer. Will he be rate more? I don't know. He can win, though, this horse. He's probably the horse to beat. I just don't want to take him on top.
I didn't either. I picked him second in here. I think you and I both have opinions on Marty Wolfson horses. You land on the 1, Trapnell Hall, and I believe we have an interesting stat for the barn.
Here's one for you. Turf to dirt with claiming horses. He's got pretty good numbers, 24%. What I like about Trapnell Hall, besides that stat, and these stats are just food for thought, is who's to say that this isn't a horse that can run in the dirt? The first race this horse ever ran got a 70 buyer figure, finished third behind Wildcat Red, who was a stakes horse. Who's to say that this horse can't be competitive in dirt races? And suddenly they went to the turf, and they have tried turf. Because what? The second race wasn't good, going a mile? Maybe something happened that day. The horse was off for 8 months after that, and they immediately went to the turf. I'm not sure that this horse hasn't shown that dirt's the preferred surface.
That's a good point. The 4 Curlin's Gem is the other Marty Wolfson horse, and this is a horse that I opt for. And we'll show a little statistic here over the past 2 years on the dirt. With his horses sprinting, stretching out to route distances, 28% and a positive ROI of $3.71. I thought that was a strong stat for a horse that has stretched out to this distance in the past and faced much tougher. You see the field that he faced back in March. He was well beaten, but he was part of the early pace, won by Matru in that race. You even go back to his Gulfstream Park West against Maiden Special Weight Company. I don't think he's impossible, and the barn does well with these types of scenarios.
I had originally wanted to use him higher. I picked him 4th. I couldn't get away from his last race. Maybe he didn't like the moisture in the track that day, though he's run well with moisture. His last race, I know it was a little wide. That was bad. And I agree. He's a little interesting in here. I wish his last race had been better.
Okay, we'll move on to the 4th race, a first level allowance going the 1-turn mile on the main track. Scratch the 5 Pollyanna in here. And we have the likes of the 7 Genre coming back off of a layoff. We'll go back and take a look at this horse's performance back at Keeneland back in April.
It feels to me like Genre finishes second in this race to Oz Chocolate, who ended up being a stakes horse. Now, Oz Chocolate wasn't at that level at this time. She improved later. It feels to me like this is the biggest favorite in the card. Would you agree this horse looks to be odds-on in this race?
Yes.
I don't wholly trust her, but Todd does seem to win with these kinds. I picked against her, but I'm not against her. She's 1 of 2. I feel like I'll pick my horse. I'll use my horse and her in the pick 5, and that'll be enough for me.
I agree, and you and I have had these conversations about these horses that were very good, or maybe earlier last year, coming off layoffs for Todd, and it has been kind of sink or swim. A lot of the time, the money has been very correct on them too, so maybe that's something to definitely watch out for. But she looked like she was beginning to get a little bit better with going into her performance in April. So I could see her coming back. But again, I don't have solid ground to stand on. Therefore, I'm not going to pick her on top.
Well, her 2 Gulfstream races here were horrendous. Okay, she wasn't winning Devona's Dale. She shouldn't have gotten beaten by 20 lengths, and that was a race the pace held together, and she was close to the pace. Her race before that, she was 5-2, and she was terrible. I didn't like her maiden win. I thought she was a phony in her maiden win, and that was a phony race. So I haven't particularly liked her as a horse. Her last race is the good race she ran.
Exactly.
The question is, where
Can she
has
duplicate that?
Yeah, and where's she been over the last 10 months since that last race? And she's going to be a huge favorite today. He's not a horse that you can trust, but she's the horse to beat.
And taking a look at the 2 Queen's Princess, this is a horse who, by default, I'm just using her to try to beat Genre in here. I went back to her last replay. She was coming in off of a layoff. The race was won by, I believe, a horse that was first off the claim for Michael Tomlinson, who was really sharp that day, but also favored. And it almost looked like she inherited the lead a little bit too soon because the pace kind of collapsed in front of her. And obviously, the winner of the race was in the second wave of horses, had a little bit more momentum. I think she should be able to get a more adequate setup today, but again, I can't fault you for going to the 4 Sierra Squall either.
Well, Sierra Squall's a horse I was interested in last time, so I liked her maiden win. She didn't run well last time, but we talked about it then, that she might be a horse that was using the race off a layoff to prep for a stretch out. Ian's numbers on stretches are pretty good. Second off, they're not great, but she's been pointed for this kind of race. So I liked her maiden win 2 back, and I'm feeling like if she can get back to it going 2 turns, she's the right one. Depends whether or not you like the 7. Some people lean in the 7. Neither one of us wants to completely trust her, but she's the horse to beat off her last race only.
I agree. Race 5, we'll move on to an allowance optional claiming event going 1 mile and 3/16 on the turf, rail setting at 115 feet. And we'll go back and take a look at the Cape Henlopen where Montclair does come out of.
Well, I mean, this is a horse that we're both picking the same horse near Chad Brown's horse, who obviously we'll get to in a minute. But I don't think you can. This is Montclair's race 2 back. This is a very good effort by this horse. This was a super slow pace even in today's standards where people apparently think speed horses can't win and nobody goes to the front end, this was a slow pace. And Montclair ran very well. I don't know what happened to him against Messi. Messi's a good horse, but he was a no-show. Now, a mile and 3/16 may be a little short for this horse. He may be being prepped for this. But don't think Montclair isn't pretty good. This was a good effort by him in that race. But you and I are both going to a horse because of the trainer change, who's good enough to be competitive, and then gets a trainer change to Chad Brown, which we're hoping puts it over the top.
And we'll take a look at some of the statistics for the barn. Chad Brown bringing this horse out, Captain Dixie, who over the past couple of years with the trainer switch on the turf, the past 5 years, 31%, still a positive ROI.
Yeah, Chad does well with these situations. I mean, he should have won here on Sunday with the 2-horse in the 10th race. The horse was horribly blocked. I forget
Sharp Omar.
Sharp Omar, and he's just good, whether it's claims or trainer changes. And this horse has the form to go on anyway. Has run plenty of races that are good enough to be competitive.
Well, you even look at his back races, and I think you can make excuses for the races that he didn't really run well in. Especially, it looks like a horse that wants a little bit of a firmer going. And even though with the rail setting changes, obviously it's going to be dry way out there at 115 feet. But this is a horse who last time out broke wide. He was kind of wide the entire way last time out. The winner would go on to win, I believe, the Artie Schiller next out as well. So it was a strong race. I thought he has the credentials, and even if he makes a lateral move, he could possibly win this race.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's funny. The other Chad horse's name in here is Genre. Somebody was talking to me about him, and I thought he was referring to the horse, the 4th race Genre. And Larry's got back-to-back genres with different spellings to go in here. I thought Prado Olay is okay. The thing about the 3 Belisarius is he's the likely 2nd or 3rd place finisher in this race, but he's a real bridesmaid. And the only reason I think he won at Saratoga was 2015 was the summer of bridesmaids, where one horse that couldn't find the winner's circle after another managed to win races in blanket photos. And Belisarius joined that group, but he's not a winning type. He's got a lot of hang in him.
He does draw a good post. He has at least a little bit of recency, and he shouldn't be that far off the pace. So I think there's some things that you can like about him.
He'll be 2nd or 3rd in here.
All right. Well, we'll see. Well, I picked him 2nd, so hopefully we're
I'm
right.
just not using him on top. If he finishes, he wins this race. Anytime Belisarius finishes first, I'm losing.
Okay, well, that's races 1 through 5. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to rush right through this pick 6. We got a lot to talk about right after this commercial break. Welcome back to Gulfstream today, taking a look at the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. It does kick off in race 6 on today's 11-race program, and we have a carryover just shy of $360,000. So that carryover continues to grow, and a very good sequence today. We'll show my ticket here just using 2 horses in the first leg. To use your words, I hope we limp through the first race and really get through this. I have an opinion about it, so hopefully we can. Primarily because I needed to use several horses, especially in the 7th race and the 11th race. I know you have an opinion in the finale. That's a race where you either use 4 or 5 horses, or you single, or you use perhaps 1 if you have a strong opinion.
You used 4 in the 2nd race and left the winner out. This is terrible. I'm crushed looking at that.
We shall see.
You didn't use my music?
No, I didn't.
Very disappointing.
I mean, this is a horse could definitely win. I'm telling you, with a limited bankroll here, $57.60, we're doing the best that we can.
It's not easy.
We're going to go through the sequence and talk about possible horses, and our opinions. Whether or not they pan out is another question, but we start the sequence off at 1 mile and a 16th on the main track. And I believe, no, we don't have a replay for this, but the horse to beat in here on paper is the 8 Fury of the Nile.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with the Fury of the Nile is the 8 post. Can this horse overcome the outside post 1 mile and a 16th? It's not easy. If the rider Jaramillo can get position, this is a horse who ran a figure in his first start that will blow this field out of the water. And last time out, not only caught a sloppy track, was planted right on a dead rail the entire way around the track. So there's plenty of things to like about this horse, especially in a race where Power on Earth might be the favorite, and why would anybody possibly want that horse?
I couldn't. You could maybe make excuses for the last race because he broke in the air and then he did pick up the pieces. But again, his Beyer speed figures are just significantly lower than really the 8 Fury of the Nile, or even Gem Twist, who I thought was an option. But I really like the 8 in here. My Wise Guy horse would be the one, Starchy Leetnot, who does get Gerardo Corrales in the saddle today. And he's a horse that I believe picked up Dear Dog in the first race on Sunday, who I kind of liked. And I thought to myself, if they send this horse, they very well could steal this race on the front end. And I'm thinking I kind of approach this race with the same type of angle.
Well, listen, I don't like the horse, but I'm not knocking long shots in here, and you were right with that other horse. And this is a guy who, if he's told to be aggressive, he is. If he's not told, sometimes he rides 1.5-mile races like they're half-mile races. So you never really know. I don't know. I thought Charlie's Wisdom with Castellano would be aggressive enough that it's not like the one could get an easy run on him, and that might make it hard. I thought Gem Twist was the horse to beat by a lot in here, and he's the 2-to-1 favorite, and he should be. This is a horse who's got dirt races. Last dirt race would make him pretty tough in here, especially if our 8 doesn't run.
Exactly. It's an interesting race. Again, I'm just using 2 horses in the first leg of the pick 6. But with that said, we'll move on to the 7th race. This does kick off the 50-cent late pick 5. This maiden $35,000 event, 1 mile and a 16th on the turf. And you land on the 1 My Music. Or let's walk us through your ticket first. How about let's start there, and then you can
whatever you'd
sell
like,
me
Gabby.
on the
You're
1
in charge
My
here.
Music.
You're the boss.
Okay.
1, 2, 5. Basically, I could have put a lot of money into this play. I could have played it in a lot of different ways. I like the 11 a little bit in the last race. I want to bet the 11 in the last race. I'll take a chance that for $48 we can get live to the horse and obviously get big value, whatever the horse's price is. And the horse will be a square price anyway. I'm using the 1, 2, and 5 here. It's admittedly there are horses, I guess, that can beat me in this race. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on the 8, and we'll see how things work out.
Okay, well, looking at this race as well, the 8 bottom page pick. This is a horse that I'm just I mean, you look at the breeding by Shakespeare out of A Song in the Prayer Mare. The mare was actually a pretty decent synthetic sprinter. I believe she was grade 3 place. And this is a horse who they obviously tried to get to the turf in debut, rained off, sloppy sealed track. This is a horse who I think has the potential to move forward on the turf with the blinkers on.
Okay, listen, it'll be a big price. I mean, I'm taking another horse that didn't run well in its first start, and maybe the drop down with my horse is a little bit questionable, but maybe they're just finding a spot it can possibly win. My Music has been entered a couple of times on the turf and been rained off. It's a half to horse, didn't win the turf. The dam herself only ran once. She was second on the turf at Tampa Bay in her only race. There's 4 good Europeans in the second generation. I'm going to use her with the 2 and the 5, who got a crazy wide trip last time in its debut. Those are my horses.
I'm going to use the 5 in there as well. The 3, Cantira, was an interesting horse. They stepped this horse up in class last time out against Maiden Special Weight Company. She showed speed. She was well beaten. I like her not only on the class drop back down to a more reasonable level, but also because of the cutback in distance.
Yeah, my problem is I didn't like her claiming turf race. I thought that was a very weak field, but it's Ralph Nix. His horses are very dangerous.
Okay, we'll move on to the 8th race on today's card, the mile onto the turf course, the 30,000 non-winners of 2 lifetime. And we have a race that several horses come out of, including the 8 Paparie and Biamonte. So we'll go back and take a look at that race on January the 8th.
As well as your horse, Light My Path, was in here, and I'm very interested to hear why you like this horse off that race. You know, Paparie is one of these horses that I have a sort of built-in prejudice against from New York. I'd bet on a couple starts. She could have won, actually, on October 8th when I thought she got sort of jammed up down inside of horses. But she really did improve in this race a great deal. And we saw the winner of that race come back, albeit with a very, very good ride. One of the best rides of the meet by Jose Lezcano to win the opener on Saturday, but beat a much better field. And I think it does elevate that race a little bit. And Paparie's the horse to beat. I put Hope and Faith and Joy on top. I don't love the race coming out of, but I still think they may be better horses than these. I'm going to use all of the 1, 4, 8, and 13 to hopefully survive the race if we get through the first leg. I don't have a strong opinion, Gabby.
This is the race, as you said, Spring Spirit did come back. I believe her Mark Cassey to win that allowance optional claimer. A much tougher race on the first race on Saturday. The 12, Light My Path. This is a horse who I thought was interesting going into the last race, but was heavily bet. She actually went off as the favorite. So going into the race, I thought she would be a little bit more forwardly placed, but immediately going into the first turn, she was checked back to the back of the field pretty much, and I thought that really took away all of her natural speed, which she does like. If you look at some of her turf races at Woodbine, she likes to be a little bit closer to the pace. So that was my excuse with the 12, Light My Path. She will have to overcome that outside post position. The 13, Shoot the Moon, though, from trainer Mike Maker. I believe we have a stat here, and we'll throw it up. Second off the claim, dirt to turf in these mid-level claimers. strong statistics, 55%, 73% in the money, and still a positive ROI.
I have a stat for you. First-time turf horses, in non-state,
Can you read your chicken scratch?
No, it's horse runners, non-maidens, starters, horses that have already run, that are not maidens, that Mike Maker goes first time on the turf. He's 8 for 71 with a $1.29 ROI. I'm using this horse because it has speed, but this is a race where there figures to be a lot of speed, and I wonder how aggressive Julian's going to be.
He has to be from that outside.
He has to do a lot of things, and there are times, and I'm not a Julian basher. I think he takes a lot of unfair criticism. But this is one where he's going to have to be aggressive to get in position, which is a bit against his general nature. And I'm worried about horses, even like your 12, you say, and I agree with what you're saying, the horse's early trouble. The problem is there's so much speed in this race that I don't know how that horse gets positioned in here, and its natural running style almost gets in his way, or her way. That's the problem. And all those things may help Puppery, and also horses like the 1 and 4 who are well posted towards the inside.
We very well could see. It's an interesting race. I don't
agree.
argue with that, because it all depends on how the race actually shapes out and who gets the best trip of all. But I agree, the 13's going to have to be aggressive from that outside. But Julian Leopard does very well when his horses are on the lead, and especially on the turf.
He's not making the lead, though. Doing a little, he's going to make the lead by sending, and Julian, that's just against his nature. We'll see. And it's a terrible. Listen, I use the horse. It's just not a great situation. I'm not trying to pick on Julian. It's just a tough situation in general. If the horse should run, and we don't even know if the horse can run on the turf.
True. We'll move on to the 9th race on the card, a maiden $35,000 event, 6.5 furlongs onto the main track, and you land on the 2 Homespun Hero in here, who should be favored, I think, in this race.
If I hadn't already sent you my picks to put into our, the thing they print out, I would have changed my picks to 3-2 here. I do think Homespun Hero is the horse to beat, and I think he should be a very short price in here. Not just with Javier, but his first race will beat this field. It's as simple as that. He's not a turf horse, as it turns out. He's back on the right surface. He ran a faster fig than these, and he's likely to win off of that race. Barkley actually is 0 for 9, 0 for 12, a maiden special weight to maiden claimer on the dirt, but 8 of them were second. It's sort of amazing bad luck for him. Giant Inca is a very interesting horse to use in here, and I would have put this horse on top if I thought about it. I know it's low-profile connections. It's not a rider that's riding a lot of winners, but it's going to be a big price. And forget about the turf race. The race 2 back, I actually thought this horse ran okay in that race, and I believe got caught down the inside. The rail was not the place to be, and this horse has back figs that are good enough to be competitive. This is an interesting horse, Giant Inca.
I've been watching Giant Inca for a really long time, so this is probably the day that he's going to win, because I always thought that there was one of these days that he's going to show up, and now on the class drop too, he very well could today. The Apocati, it was a horse that I kind of liked in here, because you look at his debut race at Belmont. He was behind Mohamed when he broke his maiden. Then you go back last time out, and he did drop in class off that October layoff. He was well bet and beaten behind Peaky Blinders, but this is a race that I kind of used with, I believe, He's Cotton, who finished 3rd in there. It was a day that speed was holding relatively well. This horse shot out of the gate like a cannon and just went gate to wire. There was really no catching him. This horse was left chasing in his wake. So I like him on that purpose alone, because I thought Peaky Blinders was really sharp that day, and we also saw the angle pan out with He's Cotton.
Okay.
So why not?
I know this was a much tougher maiden claiming field than the one he was in last time.
Very well,
and the winner was bet like the race had already been run, and I get all that. But this to me looked like a deeper field. That was my only thinking.
The 4 Traffic Express, though, in debut, this horse was well beaten. But again, this is the day that Awesome Banner ran a hole through the wind and also broke the track record at 4.5 furlongs.
Look, whether you like that horse or not, there's a lot more going on. That race that Bocati comes out of, there was nothing going on except for the winner getting bet.
All right, well, we'll move on to the 10th race, the first half of the late daily double against this allowance optional claiming event. A mile and 3/16 on the turf, rail set at 115 feet.
We'll look at the horses that are all coming out of the same race. I think one of the reasons that you and I both land on Summer Surprise is none of us are overly thrilled with the horses coming out of this race we're looking at. Bishop's Pond, yes, it was a good, daring ride by Javier, but all she did was save ground the whole way and come through on the inside. The horse who probably ran the best race is Kitsy's Rocket, who was a little wide, though I thought in watching the replay, Julian, I thought the horse was wider and more aggressive than I thought. I thought Julian gave this horse a very good ride. She benefits from the race, a couple of scratches, now she has post 8, but when the whole field is together at the wire and a horse like Tiola wins, how good was that race?
That's why I'm questioning. I actually thought Al's Gal ran a strong race
as well as
in
anybody,
there.
right?
I thought she ran probably one of the best races in that, or performances in that race, because she broke from the outside. She was 3 wide. She was 4-5 wide going into the final turn. And the fact that Corey Lanery, there was nothing that he could do on her last time out, but he gravitates to the 4 Summer Surprise here as well. So I thought that was a feather in the cap. And not only that, is that she's coming out of Group 1, Group 2, Group 3 fields overseas. We see she ran against Lacey, who I believe she went back overseas after she ran in the Grade 1 Diana. It's stronger races, whether or not this Christophe Clement can get these horses ready off layoffs.
We'll show you the stat, how his numbers are with foreign shippers in general when he uses Lasix on turf. And as you say, he's very good off layoffs. It's interesting, this horse last ran that Singapore Cup. The horse that won Paranda was a local horse that did very, very well, that the China Horse Club that owned Summer Surprise bought privately, gave to Christophe Clement, won a race here, and they bought for the purpose of running in that race. They got the money. I think that was a $2 million race. And then they've got this horse as well for Christophe. Will she be ready off the layoff? It's funny, you know, you see Rosario, who's more of a go-to rider, riding Carnival, who maybe can win the 5. I'm questioning whether or not mile 3/16 is too short for Carnival.
Yeah, I think that's a great question you pose as well. I mean, she ran a very good race last time out back in April. Again, I couldn't land on really anybody who's coming out of that January 7th race, so that's why I used Christophe Clement in my exactas.
I have no argument with any of that.
Okay, well, we'll move on to the 11th and final race on the card. Rail set at 48 feet, 7.5 furlongs on the turf for this maiden $75,000 event. And we do, taking a look at here, you have a strong opinion on a nice long shot, the 11 Twinkly.
You know, I wouldn't say it's a strong opinion. It's a horse that I have to bet. This horse gets significant rider change in its second start, was entered the turf first time for Phil Gleaves, and obviously wanted to run the turf as a 1/2 to 4 turf winners. There's plenty of turf in the second generation of them. This is turf, 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 turf. This horse is well meant for today's race. It's not that I love this horse. I want to bet this horse. So the only way I could put together a pick 5 play that was even reasonable was to I'd rather single this horse than use 2s in races where 4 and 5 can win, and give ourselves a chance to at least be live to this horse. A horse I want to bet anyway. And if I can find a way to get live, and if the horse is 8 to 1 or 10 to 1 in this race, maybe we'll get 30 to 1 in value in our pick 5, and we'll take a shot.
She does have some good breeding, especially on the bottom side, to like the lawn. The 2, Barbecca, is one. Trainer Mike Maker, again, we all know that he does very well, especially with these maiden claimers trying to make their way on the turf. This horse has not panned out whatsoever on the main track, and I'm hoping that transitioning to the turf and a slight drop in class will turn things around. However, she had been training at the fairgrounds. They tried to get her on the turf at the fairgrounds last time out, and now they bring her here. That was the questionable part of this horse.
Well, I think they bring her here because he wants to run her on the turf, and they seem to run the turf about once every blue moon at fairgrounds. They have issues with rain and the course, so I think he probably, my guess would be he was frustrated. We saw him do it with another horse earlier in the meet. I don't know how the horse did, but it was the same situation where he came from fairgrounds.
Well, that's the other negative about this horse, is that 0 for 5 Mike Maker has been with some of their horses immediately coming from fairgrounds to Gulfstream. So that's something to take note of, but
it's a guess.
Top connections, Corey Lanery, Mike Maker. I do like the horse. The 3 Regal Roma gets Lasix for the first time. What do you do with this filly? She's coming out of a race last time out where she did stretch out in distance.
You liked her last time. She gets Lasix. I don't know. She broke a little slowly. She kind of ran Orzo, who's in this race in the far outside. She ran okay. She can win. I think the 6 Try Your Luck is not impossible. It's interesting that Team Valor bought Try Your Luck, and we have to go.
I thought that was very interesting.
But I respect Team Valor. I don't love the race she's coming out of, but she did run well at the end. She was running, and I respect the opinion of Team Valor, they have good eyes, so we'll see if this one can run.
And they immediately step her up to that $75,000 tag, and they stretch her out in distance. So it looks like they purchased her with a plan in mind, and that sometimes pans out. So I used her in the pick 6 as well. But a very interesting sequence. We do once again have a nice big carryover, just shy of $360,000 going into today's pick 6 that does start in the 6th race. But that's enough talking for us. Larry Colmus is waiting in the wings. He's going to come up with scratches and changes. And best of luck on today's card. Thank you once again for joining us here on Gulfstream today.